Are you looking to create and send contracts from Monday.com by using PandaDoc? Well, you're at the right place. In this step-by-step tutorial, I'll show you exactly how to build a seamless integration between Monday.com and PandaDoc. Are you excited? Let's dive in. There are two ways to build this integration. The first one is with the Monday.com PandaDoc app, which works well, but has some limitations. You can find the app by going into the marketplace and just installing it here. However, in this tutorial, we're going to use a tool called make.com. You can use it to automate anything, and you can really get specific into the details of the automation. You can build it exactly to your needs. So it's good to know that you can use the tool Make. You can sign up for free in the link in the description. They have a free plan, so you can just play around and work along with me while we're building this integration. And you can also download all the make.com blueprints for free. And blueprints are like templates that you can install that I'm creating in this video. And if you download them, you will also automatically sign up for my free make.com course for Monday.com, where you will learn everything you need to know to become a master in make.com. So let's go into the next step. So in this video, we're going to cover a few things. We're going to start with the basic board structure that you need in Monday.com to set up this integration. Then we're going to discuss how you can connect Make in Monday. As a third thing, we're going to create and send the contract in PandaDoc from Monday.com. And then as a fourth step, you will see that we can automatically get updates from PandaDoc about the document and put them into Monday, such as when a document is signed, that you can actually update Monday showing that your document has been signed. And on this fifth step, we're going to attach the signed document to Monday.com so you have all your files in one place. Excited? Let's go. So we're now on Monday, and I'll show you quickly what I built as a board. And in this video, I expect that you have some basic Monday.com knowledge, so you can just make the columns, so I don't have to explain all that stuff. If you really need to learn that kind of things, you can look at my YouTube channel and find other tutorials, or just look in YouTube in general to get going. So I have a few things. I have one group for draft contracts, one for sent, and one for signed. Pretty simple. Then we have a status column with a few statuses: ready to create, creating, send, error, signed, and draft. Obviously, feel free to create your own and follow along. Then we have an amount. So just for example, it's just a number column to show you how that works. Contact name, it's a text column. Date of birth, which is a date column. A signed contract, which is a files column. Then a link to PandaDoc, it's a link column. And a PandaDoc ID, which is a text column as well. Then we have two simple automations. When status changes to send, move it to the send contracts. When it changes to signed, move it to the signed contracts. Nothing too crazy. And yeah, that's the basic setup. So let's go and connect Monday to Make. When you're Make, it looks something like this. If you click on scenarios, that's where you should be. I created this empty folder for this tutorial, but yours will probably look something like this. Then if you click on create a scenario on the right hand side at the top, we can actually get started. So we're going to start with a webhook. It means that we're going to send a signal from Monday to Make, so we can actually work with the data from Monday. If you don't know anything about webhooks, I'll link a video at the top of this video, so you can see my video on webhooks and go more into detail there. I'll also make sure it's in the description for you to follow along. So yeah, let's get started. We would use a webhook as a trigger, which would be a custom webhook. And then we add a new one, which we'll call PandaDoc test integration. Feel free to give it your own name, of course. Click save and click OK. Then we're going to add another module by double clicking on the right hand side. Click on webhooks and do a webhook response. What we're going to do is Monday wants you to verify that you're actually the owner of the URL that you're sending data to. So that's what we're doing. So Monday will send a challenge key, which is just a random number with letters. And we're going to send that back. So let's do that now. You need to send a status 200, which means okay. And then you open with a curly bracket, do this thing, which I always forget the name of. We call it challenge. We do a double point, we do the thing again. And here it gets a bit tricky, so pay attention. you would do 2 curly brackets, 1, 2, and you type 1.challenge, and then you close it with 2 curly brackets. Once again, 2 open, 1.challenge, 2 close. That's how you do it. And then you close it again with this character and close it with a curly bracket. So it should look like this. Make sure it's exactly the same. And then you can click OK. Then we will go into the first step again. Copy the address to clipboard, which is the link of the webhook. And then we'll click on run once. And now it's waiting for data to be sent. So let's go into Monday and send that data. So we go into automate at the top right hand side and use templates here. And you're going to search for webhooks. And the first thing that will show up is this one. If you cannot find it, go into webhooks and you'll find it here. When a status changes to something, send a webhook. So you click there. And then if you've worked with webhooks before, you'll see it like this. If not, you'll see it like this. And you would need to paste the URL that we just copied and you paste it here. And then we click connect. And then it should work like this. If you get an error, you did something wrong in this step, make sure it's exactly the same, otherwise it will not work. So let's go to we do a status. When status changes to ready to create, we're sending a webhook. Meaning that when we we can just test it. So let's go into make and I'll show you what I mean. So we can actually remove this module, right click and click delete, because we only need to verify that we're the owner once. So if you click run once, it's now looking for data again. And if we would change it to ready to create, you'll see that it receives data. And if you click on this bubble, this thing, you can actually get the data from this step. So in this case, you see the board ID, the pulse ID, the pulse name, everything that you need to know. Good to know that a pulse is actually an item, but because Monday previously was called pulse or the pulse, they kept it pulse ID. Just a little fact. There's actually one thing I forgot to add in this template, which is a button. So I'll just add it now. So let's do a button, because I like to make it very easy for users. So create contract. You'll do something like this, where if they click on this button, it will create the contract. So you can go into automate, add an automation, and then say when the button is clicked, this specific button, change the status to ready to create. So now you can make it very easy for people. You say, hey, click on this click me button, and that's all you need to do. So that's how it works. Awesome. Next step in make is to get data from all the columns, because as you can see here, we don't have any column values, or not many. So we need to get that data. So let's double click here, go into Monday and click show more, and then use the get an item module. So we get an item and we get data back. If this is the first time you're using make, you need to connect Monday for the first time. So you would click on add here and give it a name, such as my Monday test. And then you need an API key. And I'll show you how to do it. So go to monday.com, go to the right hand side at the top and click on developers and go into access token on the left hand side. Then in my case, I'll regenerate it because I already had one previously. And then you'll click on show. So make sure that you never share this token with anyone, because if they have access to this token, they will be able to see everything in your account, and you just don't want that. So make sure that you don't share this at all. And that's the reason why I regenerated every video. So if people want to get in my demo account, they can't. So click on copy here and then paste it, in make. Control V and then save. So what's good to know is that you need to create this access token from an account that will likely never be deleted from Monday, because once the account gets deleted, the token won't work anymore. So it's really attached to your account. So I highly recommend that you let an admin do it, who will likely never leave the company, or for example, a founder. Or even better practice is to add another account, which will be purely for these access tokens. But if you're a small company, that doesn't really make sense. So that's how I would do it. Cool. So now that you've authenticated Monday, you can add the ID by clicking here, and you'll see all the data from the previous step. We're going to use the pulse ID, which is the item ID. So you can click or you can drag, whatever you prefer. We're going to, well, show the parent item is fine, show sub items also fine, and then the board ID will be, in my case, it's called PandaDoc tutorial. And the reason why we put in a board ID here is to make sure that the automation is a little bit faster. Now it doesn't have to search for all items in your account, but just in this specific board. We click OK. It's best practice to rename your modules. So if you right click here, you can rename it to get contract details. And then you always easily see what's going on in this step. So I would recommend doing that at every step of the automation. Cool, let's go into the next step, which would be, we now have the contract details. We can now actually start creating a contract. So let's add another step, double click and type PandaDoc, click show more, and then go for create document. As you see, I already connected my PandaDoc in the past, but I'll do it again because I have a test account for this demo. So you click add and give it a name. So do demo account, Patrick. And then you click save. Then it should pop up a window which will ask you to authorize your PandaDoc account. In my case, you see here, Patrick's demo. By the way, I don't use this email address, it's just for demos. And then we click on authorize. Now it will authorize your make.com instance with PandaDoc. And as you can see, it's already finished, so that's great. Now the first thing is to give this document a name. This could, for example, be just, let's say, contract for, and then we, for example, do the name of the person. So all the stuff you see here is all information from Monday. As you can see, we have the item name, we have group information, column values, all the things that we just created, which is great. And in this case, we can just say contract for name, and which would mean that if someone gets a contract, it would be, in this case, a contract for item 1. Well, maybe a bit weird. So let's actually do the contact name. That makes a bit more sense. So you just click here, or as I said, you can drag it, whatever you prefer. The template ID, well here, if you click here, you see all the templates that you have. In my case, it's only one sample sales proposal, but you should use the template that you have, of course. If you don't have a template, go into PandaDoc, go into templates, and make sure that you add a template here. Let's go back to make. There you go. So in my case, template is the sample sales proposal. And what you'll see is that Monday will, or sorry, that Make will automatically look into all the fields that are available in your template. So if I show you the template real quick, you'll see that, here you go, this is my sample template. As you can see here, client.company is something that we can fill in here. And we also have other things such as client first name, client last name, client company. Well, all that information you can see here. And if you like to add more fields to your template, you can just, that's the beauty of PandaDoc, you can just edit it. And you can just do an open square bracket and then type something. So it could be client dot, let's say birth date, well, let's do date of birth, and then enter. As you can see, we now have the client dot date of birth here. And if I go back to make, and I would actually refresh this, you should see the date of birth now as well. There you go. Looks a bit weird because I forgot I forgot a space, but you know what I mean. And that's how it works actually. So yeah, that's all the stuff that we're going to fill in now. So let's start with the client email. Well, I think I haven't added a column for that yet. Nope. So I'll add that now. We do email, like this, client email. So let's give that a name. Let's do Patrick called demo. It's my demo account. And then what do we need as well? Sender email. Well, in my case, it's always the same. So I'll just do patrickcalldemo@gmail.com. That's where I always want to send it from. But if you have multiple people, multiple sales agents, for example, you can also map this to a field in Monday. Yeah, just click here and use the field that you want to use. By the way, good to know, if you don't see the field here, because you, for example, just created it like I just did, then you need to retrieve the data once more. I'll show you how to do that. So we could click OK. We'll just leave this as it is now. And we click run once, go back into Monday, and then we're going to create the contract again. Keep in mind, if you click here, the column doesn't change, so it will not trigger the automation. But if you move it to draft and then click again, it will trigger it, as you can see. And then we obviously get an error here because we haven't filled in all information. But if you open this, you'll see that we now also have the email field. Just another quick tip. This looks a bit weird, email __1. So if you want to know which field that is, you can go into Monday and click on the 3 dots here. And then you'll see the column ID. If you do not see the column ID, go into the top right hand side, click on Monday Labs and type developer. And you turn on developer mode here by clicking activate. In my case, it's already activated. And then you click on the close sign. So that's how you would do it. And as you can see, email __1 is actually the email that we just created. So awesome. Let's link more data. So we're going to link the client email, which we just had, which is, where is it? This one. We open it up. Make sure to use the right one. So you can use text or email. Keep in mind that text in this case is the bottom one and the email is the top one. I would recommend using the email one. By the way, the data is a bit different. No, never mind. So let's do email. Then we have a client company. Well, I'm just going to fill in some fixed data also for now, just to speed up this tutorial. So let's do Patrick's LLC. The date of birth, we put it in here. So we do date, client first name. I don't think we had it. We had a, where is it? Contact name. It's fine for me. So we'll just do contact name. And then I'll just do like this. And then owner name, I don't really care. I'm not sure if this always necessary, so I'll just fill in some test data just so we can, get going. Date of signature, we just keep it like this. If you want to add people to the CC of this contract, you can just put it here and fill in information so they can also get the contract. If you work with products in PandaDoc, you can add products like this. Keep in mind that if you want to use products as sub-items, it gets a little bit more complex. You need to use iterators and aggregators, and things get quite complex quite quickly. I might make a tutorial on this soon, so if you want to see that, just let me know in the comments. In this case, I'll just keep it as simple as possible because most people only create contracts and not very detailed proposals or invoices in PandaDoc, even though, I have a lot of clients who also do that. So just let me know if you would like to see how to do it, or reach out to me if you need help. Then the last step is, do you want to send the document, yes or no? In my case, I'll put it to yes, because I just want to instantly send it. If you say no, that's fine, but then you have to go into PandaDoc to manually send it. Could be helpful if you want to double check if the contract is as you wanted to create it. So let's do the subject, new contract for, and then we do contact name. Message is, for example, hi, this is a test. That's the information that you'll see in the body of the email. Then the folder, where do you want to store this newly created contract? I don't think I have folders in this account. No, so I won't, but if you have a folder, it looks something like, I'll just create a folder real quick. folders. So we do test folder. And if you have folders, that's usually a great thing to do. So let's refresh and then you'll see a folder. There you go. And you can also have folders in folders. So yeah, you can get quite organized, which I would recommend. Then we have tags, images, and metadata. I won't go into tags and images now, but keep in mind that if you put in a tag, for example, you can always retrieve that data in a later stage in this automation. So it could be very helpful. So if you want to build a very complex automation, I would recommend looking into especially the tags and the metadata, which we will use in this case. So for metadata, let's add an item. And metadata can be, you can think of it as just some extra data in your contract. No client will ever see this, but it's good if you want to match a contract with an item ID in Monday later on, for example. So let's use the key, which I'll call Monday item ID. You can do whatever you want here. And then the item ID will be the pulse ID. And what I'm doing now is I'm actually connecting the Monday item to this contract. So when the contract is signed, we also get this item ID back and can update the item in Monday. Very helpful. So yeah, this is the most important stuff when creating the contract and sending. So let's click OK. And then as a next step, and we're going to test everything in a second, of course. Next step would be to download the document. So we go into PandaDoc again. We download the document that we just created. And then here, oh, I still need to verify my email because I've just created this test account. So I'll do that in a second. But as you can see here, we have the document ID that you can download from the PandaDoc step. Then we click OK. And then in the last step, we're going to add a Monday step, which is called add a file to a file column value. So we're going to add the file. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, if you do this, you would actually add the file that hasn't been signed yet. So I think I'll just remove these two steps and we'll put it in when we actually have a signed contract. But if you want an unsigned contract in Monday, this is how you would do it. So to wrap it up real quick, you would add a board ID, which is called, in my case, PandaDoc tutorial. And as you can see, the file here is referring to the file in the previous step. The item ID, you need to map it to the first step, which is the pulse ID again. And the column ID is the, well, in this case, signed contract. But if you have a column for an unsigned contract, that would be your column. Let's click OK. And then it shows a red thing. I don't know why. So I'll just open it and click OK again. And now that would work. But in my case, I'll just remove these two steps because we don't need it at this moment. However, what we do need is to let the person in Monday know that we're actually creating and sending the contract. So as you see in the status column, I have a creating status and a send status. So let's add those as well. So you give feedback to the user so it feels more natural to them. So I'll just do Shift and then I'll drag it like this. And then what I'll do is I'll unlink these. So I'll do right click, unlink. Then I'll double click to add a new step. And it's called update column values of a specific item. Then the specific item, in my case, oh, I need to get the right, which one was it for me? Let me double check. I think I used my Monday test. So these are all my test authentication methods. As you can see, it asks for a board ID. So let's go for PandaDoc tutorial. And let's use the item ID. Make sure to map it. Don't use a fixed version because now it will always use the same item. But in practice, it's always dynamic. So don't do that. Go for the pulse ID and change a column. So you just click add item. Column ID, in my case, it's status. And we're going to update it as a label. And then the label in my case is creating. So if you now create, click on the button in Monday, it will very quickly show that it's actually creating. And then we right click and clone, and then we drag it like this, so we can also show that it's been created. So let's do status here is, or actually sent, I call it sent. If you connected it to the wrong module by accident, you can just right click and unlink it, and you can drag it to link it again. So this is great, it's good to know. Let's go into, well, the next step, which would be to test the scenario. So let's save it. It's important that you save it quite often, because if you accidentally refresh your browser, you might lose the stuff that you built. So let's run it once, and let's click on, so let's fill in the data first. So do Patrick's contract, the amount, we didn't even use that field actually. First name was Patrick, date of birth, let's do this one, and then that's it really. So let's test it by clicking on click me, and as you'll see, it's now ready to create, and instantly it's creating because it's sending a message to PandaDoc, or sorry, to make, and then hopefully in a few seconds it's set to send. But as you can see here, we have an email not verified problem. So I'll just verify my email real quick, because this is a demo account and therefore it wasn't verified yet. So I think it's verified now. Let's try again, run once, and go for this button. Let's see what happens. Looks good so far. It's now creating the document, and there you go. And now it's set to send, and actually moved into the send group with the Monday automation. So now if I look into my email, I expect to see, there you go, new contract for Patrick. If you open it, you see, hey, this is a test. It's all the stuff that we put in initially. And if you open the document, you'll see all the fields that we filled in. So let's check. Sales proposal for Patrick's LLC. Here you see all the information. Of course, I filled in a lot of test data, so you see a lot of test. But this is all the stuff that you can put in, which is all built on top of the template that I have in PandaDoc. So that's awesome. However, there's one thing we didn't do yet, which is the link to PandaDoc and the PandaDoc ID. So let's add those as well. Go into make, go into the last step, where we're not only going to update the status, but also adding another item, which will be the PandaDoc ID. And we get the PandaDoc ID from the last step, which will be the document ID. It's always good to have that in Monday, just in case. And then the next thing actually is the PandaDoc, or the link to PandaDoc, which you can find by just going into a contract in PandaDoc. And then I think mine was in the test folder. Yep. And as you can see here, this is the link. So what I would do is just copy this link and paste it in make. And then this last part, as you can see, this is equal to this because it's a document ID. So we know that if we remove this and then drag the document ID here, we can just automatically generate the URL and the link to PandaDoc, to the right document. And as text, I'll just do click here to go to PandaDoc. Now you'll see how that works in a second. So we click OK. And now this part is actually done. There are a few things I would highly recommend that you do to make this more robust, and I'll show you now. So one of the things that you can now technically do to break this automation is, well, I'll just show you. You can, for example, add a new contract without any information and then click to create the contract, and I expect that there will be an error. And I think there will be actually. There you go. So as you can see, there's an error because there's not enough information from Monday. So how do we solve this? Well, we don't like to just have errors all the time. So we would just drag this to the side, and then we will unlink it and add a router in between. So we double click, type router, And then as you can see, there's 2 steps. So I'll just drag this one a little bit down and this one like this. And I'll move this to here and then remove this one. And what we're doing is we have situation 1, situation 2. And situation 1, what we're doing in this step, which you can do by clicking on the wrench icon, is setting up a filter. And we're going to check if so all data exists. So for all required data, I would highly recommend that you filter first, because if the data doesn't exist, your contract will fail and it will return an error. So what we're going to do is we're going to check for those things. So in our case, it failed because the email needs to exist. So what we can do is we can say email exists. And if we now click OK, only if the email exists, it will use this path. If not, we'll make sure it goes this route. And we do that by clicking here, setting up that filter and using it as a fallback route, which means if it doesn't go through any other lines, it will go through this route. So not all data exists. And you click OK. I think there's a few more that we actually require. So we have contact name, contact email, birth date. Those are the ones for my situation. So I'll just add those as well. So we do and contact name exists, and which was the other one, I think date of birth exists. So now we're checking for all these things. If it misses one or more, it will run into this category. And what we're going to do here is use the error status that we created here, which is super helpful to give feedback to the user in Monday without having, so they don't need to have any knowledge of make. So how do we do that? Well, we actually can use this. Well, let's use this one that we created at the start, because we need to update the status. So to save us some time, I'll just clone this module and drag it to here. Then what you can do is actually delete this step. And as you can see, the filter still exists. If it doesn't exist, just add it again like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the status to error. Click OK. And then as a next step, we're going to add an update. So create an update, it's called. And the item ID in this case that we're going to update is the Pulse ID that we had the trigger from. And the body will be error, one or more of the following data fields are missing. Please enter data and try again. And then we'll just name which ones it could be. Could be contact email, contact name, and date of birth. Something like this. Obviously, you can change it to whatever you want and put in information here. You can even make it as fancy as, automatically figuring out which field hasn't been filled in. So you just instantly show the person which one it is. But to keep this tutorial simple, I'll just do it like this, which works fine as well. And it's good to know that your team should know which fields are required. So yeah, what I usually do when I build this for a client is something like this field is missing, or these fields are missing, and then it would have all those fields here. And then it's good to know that these fields are required. I would build something like this. So the person is always reminded, okay, this is required and these are specifically missing, so they need to try again. So let's click OK. And then I think that works well. So let's test if this error handling stuff works. So let's try to create it again where there's no contact name, no email, no nothing. As you can see, it goes into the bottom route and it shows error, see updates with the update that we just created. So that's great, works very well. Cool. So I think this is the most important stuff, to create and send the document. But now the next step is to actually get information when it's signed. So I'll just change the name to this from this to PandaDoc tutorial, create and send contract. Of course, feel free to give it your own name. It's your automation. Click save and turn it on, because now we don't need to trigger this run once button all the time. It will just always work when new data comes in. So save it and go back. And that's actually the first part of this integration. The second part, we're going to build it now. So I'm going back to my folder, and you create a new scenario, which is called, let's call it PandaDoc tutorial. Contract signed update monday.com, something like that. Then the trigger is actually a PandaDoc module, which you can do by show more, and then watch documents. And then here you can create a hook. You click add and you give it a name, such as PandaDoc tutorial. And then the webhook name, I'll just also call it PandaDoc tutorial, but the names don't really matter. It's more for your own. It's just easy to see like what I'm actually trying to do here. Then what's the payload of the webhook? I would just recommend click select all. If you don't know what you're doing or you're not super familiar with this yet, just click select all and you get all the data from PandaDoc back at every time. And then we have a few options that can trigger this automation. I'll just do select all as well, so I can show you what you can do to build multiple scenarios, in this case, multiple automations. But if you just want, for example, recipient completed, and you only want to update Monday, in that case, you can do it. But I'll just do select all to show you. Is active is yes, and then we'll save it. And then as you can see, there you go, PandaDoc tutorial works. You click OK, and let's just make sure that some data comes in. So we're running it once, and now it's waiting for some contract to do something. So I think if we go into the contract that I sent to myself and I start filling it in, I need to sign it. So let's sign it with some information. Let's do it like this. And then if I finish it, as you can see, there's now nothing. But if I finish it, it will send, there you go. It will send a message to this automation. And the field that is very important for you to understand is this status field, which in this case is document.completed. And this is what I meant with all the different types of signals from PandaDoc. You can also do document.send. I think there's document.updated, document.deleted. There's quite a few options that you can, give feedback to in Monday if you want to. In this case, I'm only going for document completed, but I'll show you real quick how to deal with different scenarios. So you can just add a router, and then you could say, for example, well, if it's document deleted, so let's add the filter here. The status, where's status? You can type it, status. If it's document.completed, it will go this route, document completed. And if you really want to do other stuff like document sent, document deleted, you can, do a lot of automation here. I'll just do document completed. Then you can go and do the next step. If you want to do the same thing as me and you followed along, you can also not use a router, but you can just use another step. So let's delete these real quick and add a Monday step, which we'll do, let's say we're going to do update column value. And then we would actually add that here. So we would say the status, the status is document.completed. Make sure this is exactly equal to what you see here, otherwise it won't work. Do whatever you want to do with the automation. But in our case, document completed. So document completed. I also recommend labeling your filters, because if you don't label it, it's quite hard to see. If you don't see your label, it's probably because they're too close to each other. So you need to drag them out of each other a bit. So Okay, now the document is completed. What we'd want to do is let the people in Monday know. So let's get my right authentication back. The board ID, as we just did, is PandaDoc tutorial. And then the item ID, don't forget, in this step, it's very important. We need to get something from the metadata. So if you scroll, you'll see this field metadata, which you might need to open. And then you see the Monday item ID, and it's the metadata that we just created. So that's how you could actually link it. So this ID should be equal to, it's probably this one. Yes. So that's great. And then the column that we're going to change is the status column. Where is it? Status, yes. And the status will be an index, or sorry, a label, which will be signed. And that's it actually. So now the only last step is to download the document and put it in a file column. I just showed you how to do it, so I'll go through it relatively quickly. Oh, sorry, PandaDoc, and then download a document. You refer to the document that it is. So the ID is this one. As you can see, document ID. And then as a next step, we do Monday file. Where is it? File. Add a file to a file column. With the board PandaDoc tutorial, it's my board. As you can see, the file's nicely mapped to the step before. And we map this item ID to the Monday item ID column. Is the signed contract column. We click OK. And then we save it. Save anyway. For some reason, it always shows this error, but there is no error. So I just click again, and then it's gone. And now it's saved, it's working, and we can actually turn it on as well. I'll delete the old data just so I can show you the whole flow from A to Z. But just so you know, what we do is document comes in, new update. We only check for the document completed. Then we update the value on Monday. We download the document from PandaDoc and we upload the file to Monday. So as you can see in the folder, both are turned on. So now we can test the flow from A to Z. So let's do that. I'll just remove all my old tabs. So let's do this. And then we also don't need this one. We just need this one. So let's try it again. I'll just put this one in here. And we'll click on click me. So it's ready to create. It's creating. And then it should be sent. There you go. And as you can see, it moved to the sent column. Now it also has this link here and this ID. So if we click here, we should see the document, which seems to work pretty well. There you go. And then I should also have received it. There you go. We have a new email. I'll open up this email. I'll open the document and I'll sign it as a test. So as you can see, nothing happened here yet. It's still sent. I'm going to start. In my case, I'm the only one that needs to sign it, so that's pretty easy. Let's do that and click finish. And then within a matter of seconds, oh, there you go, it's already signed. So it goes pretty quickly sometimes. And then hopefully it will also, there you go, put in a signed contract. I'm not sure why it put in 2 actually, so we need to check that. But if you open it, you will see the signed contract. So if you scroll down to, I think, the last page in this case, this one, you see actually the signature certification, and you see the signatures, I think on the last page, right? Let's check why it was actually 2 contracts, but because I think that's not really what we created. Let's open up the automation real quick to find out. It's not putting it in here. It's only doing it in here. Yeah, that's weird. For some reason it put it in twice. Usually that's not the case. Yeah, I'll check that real quick. I actually found out why it ran twice. So this is the interesting thing, and also good to know. that I looked at the two automations, and as you can see, both have status document completed that ran when it was finished. However, one event type was document state changed, and the other one was recipient completed. So it actually sent two events for the one status. So what I'll just do, I'll copy this, and I'll go into the make.com automation, the one that we created, and then say, well, we're not only filtering on document completed, but also event type is recipient completed. And then when we run it again, it will now not have two files anymore because it will only run once, which will also save you operations in Make. So it's good to know. So this is actually how we would build it. I will add a few things to make the automation more robust. So one thing that's important is to add error handlers, which basically means that if there's an error in any step, we can automatically fix those errors a lot of times. For example, when the monday.com servers are down or when the PandaDoc servers are down, you can automatically try again, try to send the data again or try the action again by clicking, doing right click and click add error handler. I'll put it here and call it a break module. And as you can see here, it tries 3 times and has 15 minutes in between each interval. So, which means that if the monday.com step here fails, it will try 3 more times with 15 minutes in between each. So let's duplicate that, copy, paste, and paste again, and connect it to the other steps as well. So if any of those steps fail, it will try again automatically. Because if you build great automations, one of the only reasons your automation breaks most of the time is because servers break or servers go down for a few minutes or seconds sometimes. And if that's exactly when your automation runs, it will fail. And yeah, you don't want to work on those because it's just a waste of time, because it needs to check it automatically after a few seconds or minutes anyways. By the way, if you save it and it shows the same thing as I have here, then you need to go into scenario settings and allow storing of incomplete executions. Meaning that, yeah, the data that, or the step that failed, it needs to save it for some time to try it again. So we save it, and I'll just copy this stuff by shift and then holding, and then doing right click, copy modules, because we want to add the same error handling to our other automation, this one. So we'll just paste it, and let's do it like this, and I'll paste it here as well. So we have enough modules. As you can see, you can just drag it like this. It's pretty simple. It's a very simple extra step in your workflows, but it really makes them way more robust. You don't need to do it for things like a router, because those are from Make themselves. So if they break for whatever reason, this break module won't really work and won't help. Also here, put in the scenario settings, allow the storing of incomplete executions, and click on save. And that's actually how you would build the whole automation. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you liked it and can build your own PandaDoc integration in monday.com and Make. If you want to support the channel for free, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more of these videos. Don't forget to download the make.com blueprints, also in the first link in the description, where you'll automatically sign up for my free make.com course, so you'll learn the basics of Make. If you want to have more help and you want to have personalized advice, you can reach out to me and I'll help you with your project. You can also find the link to that in the description. Hopefully you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.